Good evening. I'm Maddie with the Collapse Survivor app, and this is the fourth part of our series on the threat of AI and how to survive it. I'm a former Army intelligence officer, and throughout this series on surviving AI, we've been interviewing retired Colonel Drew Miller, a former Air Force intelligence officer and Department of Defense senior executive service member, and the CEO of the Fortitude Ranch survival community and collapse preparedness consulting. As we've covered in prior segments of this series, current artificial intelligence is going to be abused by malicious people to develop new weapons of mass destruction, enabling more and more groups and even individuals to unleash horrible attacks and plunge us into a collapse disaster. With the US and China in an arms race to develop super intelligent artificial general intelligence, leading AI experts say we will, one, not be able to control this super intelligent AI, and two, not be able to stop it if it decides to exterminate us. We could face an existential threat that wipes out most of or all of humanity. In our last session, we explained how there are really three AI threats. First is the current not super intelligent artificial intelligence platforms out there, sometimes called tool AI, which has more limited capabilities. They don't pose a threat of an AI system that will on its own decide to take over and exterminate pesky humans. But these AI tools will definitely be used by bad people, nations, and terrorists to create new weapons of mass destruction. Second is the threat of superintelligent artificial general intelligence. With intelligence superior to humans and not just capable of, but highly likely to see humans as a threat, trying to control and limit it, and would likely determine that humans need to be executed. So, without further ado, Colonel Miller, all you.
Yeah, we covered the details in this prior briefing about these threats, and we cited a variety of leading AI control experts. And the important thing to know is that even before AI has reached the artificial general intelligence, smarter than human beings stage, AI is already disobeying commands to shut down, killing people on the small scale, and working in ways we don't understand and cannot program or control. But once super intelligent AGI is achieved, AI will accelerate in its pace of learning, improving, designing itself, and more effectively evading controls. And as AI starts training and improving itself without our ability to perhaps even know or detect it, we face serious trouble. This AI capability, its intelligence advantage over humans, could accelerate very rapidly. And as they become far more intelligent than humans, only idiots like Sam Altman or Alex Karp would expect us to be able to maintain human control.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the billions of dollars of investments in AI and donations to elected officials from AI companies and investors, there's currently no prospect for AI control or regulation in the US. And the third AI threat we added to this discussion was another very different type of threat, which also has the initials AI. Smarter than humans, power taking with the ability to enslave or exterminate us, not artificial intelligence, but alien invaders from another planet. So, can you go through some of the details on how you tried to defend against all three types of AI threats?
Sure, Fortitude Ranch is set up to survive weapons of mass destruction, any type of natural disaster or man-made accident or attack that yields a collapse. And again, we define a collapse as the economy isn't functioning largely because people aren't going to work. And secondly, there's widespread, long-lasting loss of law and order. So for the first level of AI threat, tool AI, not super intelligent AI, but current AI tools being misused by bad people, terrorists, or nations to develop new weapons of mass destruction, we believe we can pretty handily get through that. But the important thing I need to understand is that even without tool AI being misused, the advances in technology, the six trends shown here, are going to lead to frequent recurring collapse disasters. That's why my book is called The Age of Collapse. But this first level of AI threat, the current AI tools that are in use for things like bioengineering, we think we can handle those at Fort Ranch since we're already prepared for surviving a pandemic, loss of the electric grid, a civil war, any disaster that leads to a collapse with our standard defenses and operating practices.
Okay. But what if tool AI is used to create a brand new type of weapon of mass destruction you've never considered?
Well, again, it doesn't really matter to us what caused the collapse, what triggered it. We believe we can keep our members alive at Port Ranch regardless of what disaster triggers what type of collapse. I should point out that, I said we're entering the age of collapse. The probability of collapse disasters is rising, and it's estimated by a model that uses dozens of experts from a variety of fields. And the result of the calculations and estimates is an annual probability of a collapse today of anywhere from 16 to 57%. It's highly uncertain, it's inherently uncertain, but it is not low. And as AI tools multiply and grow in power, this probability of collapse will rise. It's important to remember that regardless of whether it's more limited tool AI or super intelligent AGI, the biggest threat is probably not the AI system deciding to do bad things, but bad people using AI to create new weapons of mass destruction. And again, current AI is, you can be sure it's already being misused to develop deadly new viruses, new weapons, new poisons, easier ways to enrich uranium to make nuclear weapons, and brand new types of weapons of mass destruction that we can't even think of today. And unfortunately, with our irresponsible bad government, there's no controls on AI. So that is a result of government irresponsibility, the billions of dollars you mentioned, being that investors and AI companies are using not just to invest in AI, but to buy votes in Congress. So we are definitely entering the age of collapse. And as my book explains, advances in new technologies and the misuse of AI mean we will be experiencing multiple collapse disasters.
Okay. Can you go ahead and turn to the other two types of super intelligent AI threats?
Yeah, well, we'll survive against the other two threats in a kind of a different manner. So if it's just tool AI creating a new weapon of mass destruction, that we think we can handle fairly well. But if the threat of a superior intelligence taking over and treating us like ants or as dangerous or bad animals or creatures that should be exterminated, that's a far worse threat. So this AI takeover could be artificial general intelligence made by humans on Earth, or an alien invader that has some extraterrestrial biological or machine AI invader. And if they're smarter and more capable and our military forces can't defeat them, they could take over. So for either type of super intelligence system or machine or alien being taking over, Fortitude Ranch will use what we call the rural rat strategy, that I explained before in some other briefings. So basically, it's primarily these three things. First of all, stay away from the AI power, their data centers, wherever they're located. Don't pose any threat to them, to the ruling A power. And that's what Fort Ranch is. We're in remote areas. We're strictly defensive. We don't do any offensive things. The second thing is don't be consuming any resource of high value to the ruling AI. So we're a nuisance to them. And then the third thing is have some defensive measures. So even if they could wipe us out if they wanted to, we impose a cost on them by fighting, defending ourselves. So hopefully they decide, hey, these may be disgusting rats out there, but they're not really worth the cost of getting rid of them. So that's kind of the rural rat survival strategy that we use.
Okay. So we've gotten lots of emails over the past few weeks asking where Fortitude Ranch is located. Can you cover that briefly?
Sure. Well, right now, Fort Ranch has 8 locations, and we're expanding with franchising, so we expect to have a lot more. And if you've got a remote RV park or a resort or a ranch, Fort Ranch could be a great add-on business for you. The rough locations are shown on our website, fortranch.com. We don't give out our exact locations, but whenever I say that, I like to explain that it is impossible to hide in a collapse. If you were alive and surviving in a long-lasting collapse disaster, you're going to be found. People are going to be out there searching everywhere to try to find game to hunt or people to steal food from. And you can't hide. Even underground, you have to run a generator periodically to survive underground, and that's going to give you away. So survival in a collapse requires being able to defend your supplies against marauder groups. You have to be able to fight on the surface. And we've got that capability. You don't need dozens of people to do that. To keep guards on duty 24/7, you need a lot of armed members. We estimate it's at least 50 people, and we prefer having 100 plus people at our locations because we'd rather deter a marauder attack than fight them off.
I'd also like you to go over some more details on how you could defend against an attack by a smarter artificial intelligence or alien invader.
Sure. Well, up front, I should acknowledge that if they're a really smarter machine AI or an alien invader that's much smarter than us, it's quite possible there is no defense. They're going to be able to detect us just like we can detect marauders. If not just by sight with thermal imaging, drone observations, and they'll probably have technologies we don't even know about today. Hiding and living completely underground is impossible. But our hope is that if we pose no threat, don't bother them, and make it costly to destroy us, the superior intelligence ruling power might decide it's not worth the resources on our extermination. So we do want the ability to defend ourselves and impose a cost on them if they're going to try to wipe us out. So we want to be able to do things like shoot down any drones they send at us that could carry weapons or explosives, attack and defeat their robots. Now, the military has some, extremely costly systems to shoot down drones. We're just going to be using shotguns, but we do have something better than the 12 gauge shotgun that 99% of preppers have, and that's the larger, rarely seen today 10 gauge shotguns that I can show you here some of the differences. So here's the 12 gauge pump. And this shoots the smaller red shell, 12 gauge shell you see here. That bigger black shell is a 10 gauge, not a 12 gauge, but a 10 gauge. And we've got 10 gauge shotguns, which have kind of died out, but this is a 10 gauge semi-automatic, much longer barrel, much more shot. It's got at least 20 yards more capability, possibly more in shooting down drones.
Could you hold them together to show the barrel length difference?
Yeah, it's a very, very big difference. Let me, if I can back up more. I mean, the 10 gauge, this one here, it's a full choke. This 10 gauge has over about a foot and a half more barrel length than this 12 gauge. And with the bigger shell, much longer barrel, and then that full gauge, full choke, it's got, as I said, at least 20 yards, possibly more range to shoot down drones. So it's just a far more capable system.
Okay. For the war in Ukraine, shotguns are a major means of drone defense. They do a lot of signal jamming and have some specialized anti drone weapons as well.
Yeah. Well, for larger drones, I mean, if they're really big, we've got a lot of AR-15s. We've got larger caliber, big game rifles like 300 Win Mags, 308s, and each of our locations has a 50 caliber. Though a single shot weapon, 50 caliber is not really feasible for shooting drones, but for robots trying to get them at a distance, that would help. And I can't get into details on this, but we are working on using our high frequency ham radio transmitters with 100 watts of transmit power as drone or robot jammers. And I don't think it's showing up in my screen, but we've got HF radios. Most of them are 100-watt transmit power or more at all of our locations. And so what we're doing is using a device to shift from the low 100 megahertz frequency that ham radio operates at to the 2.4 or 5.8 gigahertz frequency that drones normally use. We're also going to use nets, a simple thing, just nets, both for general camouflage and to block drones from like flying into a building. Now we do want the Marauder Group observers to see that Fortitude Ranch has a lot of guard posts manned every minute of the day, not just a few, but a half dozen or more. But some nets we've got are also going to be kind of transparent to try to catch a small drone and defeat it that way. Again, we're not assuming that we can outsmart or outmuscle the controlling AI power, whatever type it is, but we want to be able to impose costs on them to kill us off. So hopefully they'll rationally decide it's not worth exterminating us. Now, if they develop a virus that is spread by houseflies or tiny nano devices, that's something we probably won't be able to handle. So we're trying for other means to do it to defend against drones and robots and other AI threats. And if we can't feasibly defend against an AI threat, then we might have to resort to a strategy of like keeping some young kids or members sequestered underground or in a bug-proof area, kind of like that Silo series, but a small part of the population, because again, you have to have most of your members at a survival community on guard duty on the surface to defeat marauder attacks. And there are some other defensive measures and tricks we've got at Fortitude Ranch for defending against robots, drones, and other potential AI tactics that I'm not going to disclose here because simply they work best when they're unknown to our attackers. So I'm not going to disclose those. And of course, we will adapt and try to think of other ways to hide, defeat likely attack vectors and defend ourselves.
Okay. Well, AI is definitely raising the likelihood of a collapse disaster and making it harder to prepare for survival. Every new technology gets used by bad people to create new ways to kill. But AI is a worse threat because it enables small groups and even individuals to create weapons of mass destruction. And if a super intelligent artificial intelligence system or a smarter than us alien invasion occurs, then the only hope of survival is to convince the superior, smarter AI power not to wipe us out. So, in our previous videos, we mentioned that we planned a four-part series on surviving the AI threats. But a project that Collapse Survivor has recently been considering pursuing fits with surviving a super intelligent AI takeover, both super intelligent AGI or alien invasion. So we have decided to cover this in a part 5 on this series that we'll prepare for next week. But thank you and stay safe.
If you want to learn more about threats and how to prepare for the coming struggle, hit the follow button on the bottom left of this video to subscribe to the Collapse Survivor channel.